Hey everybody, welcome back to another EDH video. Today's video we are on day 12, I believe, of 25 days of deck building, and today we are on Simic, a deck that I think is going to be pretty fun. We're building around Lonis, Genetics Expert, one generic Simic hybrid legendary creature, Snake Elf Detective, has evolved. So whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than Lonis, put a +1/+1 counter on it on Lonis, of course. And then whenever a +1/+1 counter is put on Lonis, investigate that many times. And then whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control. It does say one or more, so if you put 7 on, I think you investigate 7 times. So that makes a lot of sense there. Yeah, I hope this is going to be a pretty fun deck. I've never actually played a Simic deck before, but I'm looking into building a CDH version of Kinnan. So if look forward to that on the channel eventually. But we're coming in with 32 creatures, 8 sorceries, 8 instants, 7 artifacts, 9 enchantments, 36 or 34 lands, depending on if you count the MDFCs. Deck's coming in at $240. I feel like that's not that bad. First up, we have Ramp, Arcane Signet, 2 generic, taps for 1 color of our commander's color identity. So it's going to tap for a blue or a green, which is pretty good. A little bit of fixing. A little bit of ramp, a little bit of both. We got Birds of Paradise, 1 green, creature bird, flying, add 1 mana of any color. So blue or green pretty much. It's an 0/1. Pretty good staple here. Everybody knows what this card does. Next up we got Delighted Halfling. It's 1 green, tap it for a colorless. You can also tap it, add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a legendary spell, and that spell can't be countered. It's a 1/2 halfling citizen, so not too bad there. It's not an elf though. We have Elvish Mystic, 1 green, taps for a green. It's an elf druid. I don't think it's really elf tribal, but I just like to say the creature types. We have Farseek, 1 generic and a green. Search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain card. Put it on the battlefield, tap, and then shuffle. So we're basically going to be searching for an island here, as there aren't really any mountains in our deck or anything like that. We have 500-Year Diary, 3 generic and a blue. Enters the battlefield tapped, and you can tap it for a blue for each clue you control, and then you can also tap to sacrifice it and draw a card. Next we have Fenhorn Elves, green, tap it for a green. It's an elf druid. It's a 1/1, and everybody knows what this card does. It's just basically a copy of like a Llanowar Elves or a Mystic Elf or whatever. We have Growth Spiral. It's a Simic instant draw card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. It's a Simic staple. It's one of the top cards for Simic, so I might as well put it in here. You have Gyre Sage, 1 generic and a green. Has Evolve, and then you can tap it for a green for each +1 counter on it. It's a 1/2, but it's going to get big with Evolve, and you can also get big with the commander's ability. So it's going to be tapping for a lot of mana. Incubation Druid, 1 generic and a green. Add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce, and if it has a +1 counter on it, add 3 mana of that type instead, and then it has Adapt for 5. We have Jaheira, Friend of the Forest, 2 generic and a green. Tokens you control have tap, add green. So this is going to make our clues be able to tap for mana, basically turning our clues into like bad treasures. And we have Llanowar Elves, green, tap for green, elf druid. We all know what this card does. Also, I like this art better than any other Llanowar Elf art. You can't judge me for that. It's very, very cool looking. Kami of Whispered Hopes, 2 generic and a green. If 1 or more counters will be put on a permanent you control, put that many +1 counters are put on that instead. Then you can tap it and create X mana where X is its power. Then Nature's Lure, 1 generic and a green. Search your library for a forest card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. This can also get like the dual type land, so like a forest, island, whatever. Then we have Rishkar, Pima Renegade, 2 generic and a green. Enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each up to 2 target creatures. Then each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has tap, add green. We have Soul Ring, 1 generic artifact. Tap it, create 2 colorless. We all know what this card does. I put it in all my decks. Honestly, I probably shouldn't, but I do. Next up we have Urza the Lord High Artificer, 2 generic, 2 blue. Enters, creates a 0/0 colorless construct and it gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control, and you can tap untap artifact you control and add blue. And then you can pay 5 and shuffle your library and play the permanent if it's a permanent. Thought Vessel, 2 generic, and you have no maximum hand size, and you tap it for a colorless. Urza lets you play like the top card after shuffling your library. 3 visits, 1 generic and a green. Search a library for a forest card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. Again, it's pretty much a nature lore. Utopia Sprawl enters, enchant it to a forest, and then enters, choose a color, and then the forest taps for an additional 1 mana of the chosen color. Next up, we have Wild Growth. 1 green, enchant land. Whenever land is tapped for a mana, its controller adds an additional green. So you can put it on an island and it'll tap for a green and a blue. Or you can put it on a forest and it'll tap for a green. We have Kodama on the west tree, 2 generic and a green. Modified creature you control have trample, and then whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle. We're going to have a lot of modified creatures, so that's why it's in here. Next up, we have Draw. We're going to have a lot of draw in here because we're in blue and green, and those are like the really good draw colors. So first up, we have Hazard's Gambit, 3 generic and a Phyrexian mana. Draw 2 cards, then proliferate. So we're going to have a lot of plus and plus and counter synergy. We're going to have a lot of other stuff, so might as well just throw proliferate on a draw spell. Next we have Shimmer Dragon, 4 generic, 2 blue. It has hexproof as long as you have 4 or more artifacts, and you can tap 2 artifacts and draw a card. And they're going to have a lot of clues, so instead of sacrificing them, just tap them and draw a card. Next up we have Peregrine Took, 2 generic and a green. If 1 or more tokens will be created under your control, those tokens plus an additional food token will be created instead, and you can sacrifice 3 foods and draw a card. So whenever we're creating clues, we can create foods as well. We have Inspiring Call, 2 generic and a green. Draw a card for each creature you control with a plus and plus encounter on it. Those creatures also gain indestructible. So a little bit of draw, a little bit of protection. It's also an instant. You can hold it up. Then we have Fathom Mage, 2 generic and a Simic. It has Evolve, and then whenever a plus and plus encounter is put on it, you draw a card. And with our commander, we're just going to be putting a bunch of plus and plus encounters on stuff. And we're going to choose this if it's out. Then we have Bred for the Hunt, 1 generic and a Simic. Whenever a creature you control with a plus and plus encounter on it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. You don't have to, but you may. So you can draw a bunch. Danny Pink, 3 generic and a blue. This is one of my favorite cards ever. Has a mentor. That's not really what matters. It says creature you control have, whenever 1 or more counters are put on this creature for the first time each turn, draw a card. We're going to be putting a lot of plus and plus encounters on stuff. So here's our plus and plus encounter stuff. It kind of lines up perfectly with this Danny Pink card. So first up we have, name that card, Archbound Ravager, 2 generic. Sacrifice an artifact, put a plus +1 counter on Archbound Ravager. It comes in as a 1/1 because it has a modular. But you can sacrifice the clues and put a plus +1 counter on him. Then we have Branching Evolution, 2 generic and a green. If 1 or more plus and plus counters would be put on a creature you control, twice that many plus and plus counters are put on that creature instead. Basically just doubles your counters. Everybody knows what this card does. We have Evolution Witness, 2 generic and a green. Has Adapt 2, and then whenever 1 or more plus and plus counters are put on Evolution Witness, return target permanent card from your graveyard to the hand. So it's basically a little bit of recursion. You have Hadana's Climb, 1 generic and a Simic. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a plus +1 counter on target creature you control. Then if that creature has 3 or more plus +1 counters on it, transform Hadana's Climb. Then we have Hardened Scales, 1 green. If 1 or more plus +1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1 counters are put on that creature instead. So it just, again, doubles up your counters. Herald of the Secret Streams, 3 generic and a blue. Creature you control with +1 counters on them can't be blocked. It's a 2/3. This is going to make our entire board unblockable, pretty much. Then we're just going to swing a big damage. We have Hydra's Growth, 2 generic and a green. Enters battlefield plus a counter on enchanted creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of plus and plus counters on enchanted creature. Again, if we have Herald of the Streams out, we're just going to make it a big old unblockable boy. We have Master Biomancer, 2 generic and a Simic. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with a plus and plus counter on it equal to Master Biomancer's power and has Mutant as an additional type. Ozlet, the Shattered Spire, 1 generic and a green. If 1 or more plus and plus counters will be put on an artifact or creature you control, that many +1 counters are put on it instead. There's a tap it as a sorcery and put a +1 counter on something. Then we have Neoform, a Simic. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice creature, search the library for a creature card with converted mana cost 1 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost, and that creature enters battlefield with an additional +1 counter. Primal Vigor, 4 generic and a green. Doubles the tokens and doubles the counters for everybody. So it helps you more than it helps your opponents in theory. Then we have Sage of Hours, 1 generic and a blue. Whenever you cast a spell that targets Sage of the Hours, put a +1 counter on it. And then remove all +1 counters from Sage of Hours. For each 5 counters removed this way, take an extra turn. In theory, we can go infinite here. Infinite turns. Simic Ascendancy, Simic, 1 in a Simic, put a +1 counter on target creature you control, and then whenever a +1/+1 counter is put on it, you put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy. Then if you have 20 or more, you win the game. Vision of Dominance, 2 generic and a green. Put a +1 counter on target creature you control, then double the number of +1 counters on it, and then it also has flashback. And it costs X less, where X is the number of times you cast your commander. Walking Ballista, XX enters with X +1 counters on it, and then you can pay 4 and put a +1 counter on it, and then you can remove a +1 counter on it and deal 1 damage to any target. Pretty simple. The Moon Paradox Sculptor, 2 generic and a Simic. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1 counter on each up to 2 target creature you control, and then you can tap a Simic and tap it and double the number of each kind of counters on 2 target creatures. We have Investigate. We're going to have a lot of clues, a little bit of clue synergy here. We're going to want to create a lot of clues and then sacrifice those clues and also tap those clues and do all kinds of stuff with the clues to get counters. So first up, we have Tireless Tracker, 2 generic and a green. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, investigate. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a +1 counter on Tireless Tracker. 3/2 will get big. Cameo's Journal, 5 generic. At the beginning of your upkeep, investigate, which means create a clue. You can sacrifice 3 clues, search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. Basically a very good tutor in this deck. Just tutor for whatever you want. Tameo Inquisitive Student, a little bit pricey, but it's a 1 blue. Whenever it attacks, investigate. Whenever you draw your 3rd card in a turn, exile and then return her to the battlefield, transform under her owner's control. She turns into a planeswalker. Martha Jones, 2 generic and a blue. Enters the battlefield, investigate. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, Martha Jones and up to 1 target creature can't be blocked this turn. And we have Lonis, Cryptozoologist, Simic. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, investigate. Then you can sacrifice X clues. Target opponent reveals the top X cards. You may put a non-land permanent card from mana value X less onto the battlefield under your control. Graph Mold, 2 generic and a green. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, you gain 3 life. Just a little bit of life gain, and also I like the art. That's the only reason why I put it in here, to be honest. We have Adric and Nev, twin casters, 2 generic and a Simic. If 1 or more tokens will be created under your control, twice that many are created instead. Also has a word 2, which they're printing on everything in the world. We have Academy Manufacturer, 3 generic. If you would create a clue, food, or treasure token, instead create one of those each. So if you create clue, you create both a food and a treasure. So then we have Kitchen. Enters the battlefield taps for a blue or green. Also, you can tap 4 and tap it and investigate. Very inefficient, but we can use it sometimes. And the next step we have removal and random removal. Just stuff I didn't find a large enough category for. The first up we have, what do we have? These slides are so long. I need to make them shorter. Beast Within. It's a 2 and a green. Destroy target permanent. The controller creates a 3/3 green beast. Pretty generic stuff that pretty much everybody runs these in their green decks. I don't know if it. And then we have Bridgework Battles. 2 generic and a green. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Also flips to a land on the back that you pay 3 life and make it come in untapped. We have Counterspell, 2 blue, counter target spell. Generic Counterspell. I didn't want to put like Mana Drain or something like that in here, but I wanted something to be able to counter people's stuff because we are in blue. I thought it'd be interesting to put in here. Then we have Nature's Claim, 1 green. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Its controller gains 4 life. Probably the most efficient removal for artifacts and enchantments, but the 4 life sometimes matters, but I don't think it's going to matter that much. Rapid hybridization. I can't ever pronounce that. 1 blue, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated, and the controller gets a 3/3 green frog lizard creature token. Again, the 3/3 is not going to matter. We got Final Fight, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. Its controller creates a 3/3 green ape creature token for 1 blue. Again, we are going to see a lot of these in these colors. There's not a lot of destroy target creature, and those are the good ones. We have Noxious Revival, Phyrexian mana, put target card from a graveyard on top of its owner's library. You can pay a green or 2 life. Basically, this can be free. We have Battlegate Recovery, 2 generic and a green. Return target card from your graveyard to the hand. It also has a flip land. I think it comes in tapped. We have lands. First up with the lands we have. Of course, we're going to have a matching amount of lands. I always do that in all my decks. I don't know why. But we have 9 islands. 9 islands. I'm assuming we also have 9 forests. Yep, we have 9 forests. That's pretty generic for me. We have Archway of Innovation, so you can tap a blue, tap it. The next play you cast this turn has Improvise, which means you can use your artifacts to pay for it. Then we have Bark Channel Pathway. Comes in, you can play it on the green side or the blue side. It taps for whatever color you play it on. Alligator Recovery comes untap, taps are green. Command Tower taps one color of your commander's color identity. Dreamroot Cascade enters battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. Taps are green or blue. Duck Orchard taps are mana color of your opponent's lands, whichever one they can produce. Flooded Grove taps for a colorless or taps for a green, green blue, or blue blue if you pay a mana into it. Inland Harbor enters battlefield tapped unless you control a forest or a island. Taps for blue green. Kitchen, we already went over this one. We don't really care about it. Overflowing Basin, you can tap a generic and tap it to add a Simic. Rejuvenating Spring enters battlefield tap unless controlled, or if you have two or more opponents. Green or blue. Reliquary Tower, no maximum hand size, taps for colorless. Tangle Swim Bridge works. You can pay 3 life and have it come in untapped. Taps are green. MDFC. Tide Channel Pathway. I don't know why. It's the other side of the green pathway. I don't know why I put it on here. Waterlog Grove, you can pay 1 life, tap it, and make green or blue, and pay 1, tap it, and draw a card by sacrificing it. Pirate Sanctum, you can put a plus counter on a thing and make it a god, and all kinds of this stuff. Vine Snarl enters battlefield tap if you don't reveal a land. Yavimaya Coast, you can tap it for mana and deal damage to yourself. It's colored, and then the other one's colorless. Winged Temple of Veraska, you can pay 1 and a Simic and tap it, and it gives target creature +X/+X, where X is its power. I think it also gives it flying. Yeah, that's pretty helpful. To maybe help get your commander through, help get that commander damage, but it also taps for 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. I don't know why they worded it. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Does everything say that? Does every land say that? I don't think so. Why did they word it like that? I don't know. Maybe I'm just tripping. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe, comment down below that you made it all the way to the end and that you're going to join the Discord. Follow me on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, subscribe, comment on every video. I don't know. Anyways, peace out.